So you may have heard the word fawning, and this is often what people pleasers are called. And it's because if you think of a fawn, which is a baby or young deer, they have a reaction to fear, that is to freeze. So if a branch is snapped in the woods, they don't fight, they don't run towards it and attack the source of the noise. They also don't tend to run away. They tend to stay really still, their eyes really big, and just hope nobody notices them and hope that predator just leaves. That is what our nervous system does. Everyone is an animal. We're all like human animals. And so the freeze response is the way our personal nervous system was wired as children. Other people might have a flight response or a fight response. And there's some people get really angry when there's an injustice. They're just wired for fight. So on the continuum of the freeze response, we have the fawn response, which is still having that sort of like, I don't know what to do. I'm sort of stuck, but also how do I get out of it is I'm going to fawn. I'm going to be extra kind, extra loving so that the threat, the attacker, does not attack me, but I can sort of win them over. And this happens because when we're children, we aren't getting attacked by animals. We're not getting attacked really, but because we're social animals, the threat to us is the loss of connection to our parents. It's a loss of connection to our tribe or community. It's like a very primal base fear, and we will do anything to prevent that from happening. You may have heard of the phrase failure to thrive. That often happens to orphans in places like Russia or Eastern Europe, where there's like too many orphans, not enough caregivers. They're given the very basic requirements to stay alive, which is like food, and then they're left in their crib. So they don't have that sort of connection to more individuals, to parents, and they get what's called failure to thrive. They do not survive, or they have huge developmental issues. We need to be in community and connection, and that is why we develop something called a fawn response. So I teach like regulation tools to create that sense of safety in ourselves, right? Because as adults, we are responsible for our own sense of healing. Whatever happened to us in the past happened to us in the past. Our work now is to come back to regulation and safety. The second part of that is finding safety in our surroundings. As adults, we need to choose healthy relationships. A healthy relationship is a relationship where we can be our full, authentic self. We don't have to be extra kind, extra giving. We don't have to serve somebody in order for us to have value in their lives, right? So we want to kind of think about, who do we have in our community, our circle, and do they like me for me? Can I show up as my full range of expression and they will still want me in that community? Or do I need to play a role and fit into something that they need? Those are the questions that we want to ask. We want to have authentic, pure relationships. And relationships can shift and become that. And that starts with us having safety and becoming authentic human beings. So I want to go back to that fawn response really quickly, because there's a super interesting dynamic with empaths and narcissists. A lot of people pleasers identify as empaths, which basically means you have a very sensitive system, energetic system, nervous system. You can feel the emotions, the energy of everybody around you. And as a people pleaser, that manifests as like, I'm only okay if everybody else in the room is okay. And I'm going to do whatever it takes to make everyone else okay so that I can feel okay. Does that resonate with anybody? That was me. That was definitely me. I could be on a city bus and I could sense who was in trouble, who was not in a good state of mind, who was agitated, who might be a threat. I was always scanning my environment for safety because I didn't have that sense of safety in myself. I needed to make sure everyone else was safe first. So I did the work of creating that within myself, and it really shifted a lot. So back to the narcissist. So everyone's a mirror. You've heard that before. We will subconsciously recreate relationships over and over again until our inner child or a subconscious creates a different outcome, the outcome that they wanted, they secretly wanted. So you empaths might continually meet a narcissist with just the same person, different face, over and over again. Why do you keep meeting all these horrible men? They're so narcissistic. They just take. They're da da da. You gotta look at yourself. And I'm saying this as somebody who did that, right? I'm calling myself out here too. So with the narcissist, we are staying with them because they're an unconscious sort of parental figure or somebody that didn't meet our needs as a child. And we're like, I'm going to do whatever it takes from this like very cold, emotionally removed person. I'm going to do whatever it takes. And I'm going to make you love me. I'm going to do whatever it takes that you tell me that I have value and that I'm worthy, right? And it's like hitting against a brick wall until boom. So I'm bringing this up because when I stress the importance of fixing this people-pleasing behavior, this fawn response, right? We're recreating these scenarios again and again because we unconsciously want a different outcome. So let's get that outcome and start creating healthy, beautiful, loving, flourishing relationships that we all deserve in our lives, right? Done with drama. So there's a people-pleasing trap. And I'm going to call myself out and a few people out here again, right? There's two kinds of behaviors that we have when we are giving. One is being nice, and being nice is I am going to demonstrate a behavior because I need some validation from you. So it's an exchange almost. I'm going to be nice. I'm going to help you move because I want you to think that I'm a really good person, and I don't have the ability to say no. That's part of it. But it's also like I need you to reflect back to me my own value in your life, or that I'm a good person, or that I want you to prove that or show me that I'm kind. So the other part of that, like that's one. The second one is being nice. I'm sure we're all very nice people, and we have a genuine niceness, but a niceness should be coming from a place of I am genuinely offering to you without an expectation of receiving. And that receiving could be a validation, it could be an expectation of something in the future from you, a relationship, it could be anything. So whenever you're giving, ask yourself, am I being kind or am I being nice? Kind for validation or nice because I'm genuinely being nice in this moment? It's a hard question to ask yourself. And then the third part, this is the really hard part, and I'm sorry if this is upsetting to anybody, but I had to really deal with this and I had to sit with this, and that is that people pleasing is often a form of manipulation. And it's not easy to hear that you could be in some way manipulative. Again, I'm calling myself out here. Because the first example I told you, where I'm doing something because I want a validation from you or a response from you, is me trying to manipulate you in some way. Trying to get you to do something, feel something, treat me a certain way. That is inherently manipulative. Knowing that manipulation can be, doesn't necessarily have to have a bad intent. It could just be anything that's controlling. I'm trying to control the outcome, I'm trying to control you. I'm manipulating things. So, it's a hard one, but like, think about this. Like, I don't want to be manipulative in this world. I don't want to be controlling. I want to be authentic, and I want you to be authentic, right? I want to give to you because it's authentic, and I want you to receive and give back to me because it's authentic. So that's the kind of relationships we want to build in the world. And it's so much less mental energy when you operate this way. So, question to ask yourself: did you grow up in a home where all your emotional needs were met? Emotional needs meaning if you had an emotion like anger, if you were upset, did you feel like you were seen and heard in that emotion? Did you feel like you had parents who genuinely cared about how you were doing every day, your thoughts, your opinions, your feelings? If you didn't get that, that is one of the base programming starts of this behavior. And the child will start doing whatever it can do to get a response from the parent that's positive, right? It will change its behavior so that it can get like the attention from mom, the love from mom, right? And that's, again, how we start that manipulative behavior. I'm going to change myself so that you do something for me, that you give me love, that you give me eye contact, attention. So I'm going to be the best piano player of the school. I'm going to get the best grades. I'm going to be the sweetest, kindest, quietest kid who never speaks up, never shouts, never talks back, and never express anger. That was me. My mom told a story that I was so obedient that one time she gave me a chicken drumstick, and then she went and did her whatever in the kitchen. She came back and the entire drumstick was gone. I had eaten the bone of the drumstick because I was so obedient. She said, eat it. And I just ate the entire, like, that's crazy. That's the level of, like, not even being in connection with myself. I was just kind of doing whatever I was being told. And I was so, my role with my mother was that my sister was like the bad kid, and I was the good golden kid who just like did everything perfectly, everything she wanted, and I got my validation from that. That's how I started my people-pleasing behavior. The other thing is taking on the emotions around you in your household as a child. So another, I'm just going to keep using my examples. Like, I don't want to use my clients' examples for privacy. So that's why I'm talking about myself a bit more in these lives. So I grew up in a home where, like, there was a lot of anger from other, like, and angry personalities, a lot of stress. And we bonded. We had dysfunctional dynamics because we bonded over crisis. So we would create dramas and crisis, and because we were all used to this, like, elevated nervous system. And so I don't remember a peaceful home as my child. You know, it'd be like, even like going to a family friend's house for dinner, we would be an hour late. And it was just like, that was like, oh, we gotta run, we gotta get, like, everyone's hyped up, everyone's in a state of constant stress. That's just the normal of my home. And we created that. That's our, we existed and bonded together. So in my 20s, I unconsciously constantly created crisis in my life. I created dramatic relationships. I created unsafety in my nervous system by not having financial safety, not having a home safety, like constantly moving. And I had to address this. I was like, why do we keep having this pattern in my life? It's not me saying the world is out to get me. You know, there's something karmically happening to me. No, it's me. I was addicted to stress. I was addicted to cortisol. I was addicted to adrenaline. I needed to undo all those patterns. And that is again the work of, like, I'm asking these questions to you. What kind of home did you grow up in? What kind of patterns are you having now as an adult? Because we can correct them once we identify and are willing to actually sit with the patterns. So I want to talk about anger. I love anger. I'm talking a lot about anger with the people that I'm working with right now, because people pleasers often have no connection to anger. And I'll often hear, like, I never get angry. I just let things go. I go with the flow. And often these people have other symptoms, because when anger is like the base human primal emotion. When we don't feel that, we also start numbing out other emotions. They're like, I don't feel, I don't have the ability to feel happy and joyful. So manifesting depression, manifesting anxiety, manifesting all these other lack of emotions, because they don't feel the base one. So if you know somebody, or you also don't feel angry in your life about anything ever, ask yourself, do I also feel a lack of complete full joy, ecstasy, pleasure? Because you can't just deny one emotion and then have all the other ones show up. They're all going to get numbed out, right? That's why anger is so important to work with. We start repressing anger as children when it's not safe to be angry. Again, going back to that fight, flight, freeze response as children. If you grew up in a home where you did not feel safe to be angry, you will suppress it. So did you get spanked? Did you get punished when you were angry? When you had a tantrum, when you shouted and yelled and maybe screamed? Did you get put in the corner? That's the worst thing you could do to a child. Do you know why? Because you're creating that primal trigger of losing tribe, losing connection to a family. You're literally removing them from the community, the tribe that keeps them safe, and it's a primal prehistoric brain that's like alarm bell, never get angry, never show this emotion, it's not safe to do this, I gotta always be kind and nice and sweet, I never want to be removed from the tribe. There's a really good somatic therapist, her name is Irene Lyon. She talks a lot about this on her YouTube channel, if you're interested in learning more about this topic of anger in childhood. But I wanted to say one more thing about this, because she has such a really good example of this. Is like when we hold a baby, babies are like the most primal beings, right? They're just all emotions all the time, and really quick emotions. And so one of them is like a baby might like bite or scratch, and if a parent like punishes, like, you're a bad baby, don't do that, that's when the baby realizes like, oh, I cannot have my expression here. It's not safe for me to be angry, to have these emotions. But she says like a healthy way to respond to that is to be like, meet the charge and the power, and be like, wow, you're really strong, good job, right? So you're kind of validating that the power is there, and you want to redirect it. You don't want to let them keep doing it, but you're just like meeting them with that. And it's like a puppy. Imagine the cutest, fluffiest, most adorable puppy you can possibly imagine right now, and imagine it's chewing this squeaky toy that it loves. And I'm going to come up to it and I'm going to grab that toy. What's it going to do? It's going to get angry. It's probably going to growl. It might bark at me, right? That is a healthy anger response. The cutest, fluffiest animal in the world gets angry when its boundaries are violated. I pulled something that belongs to it out of its home. It took something from it. I violated its boundary and it got angry. And that's how we should all be. We should all get angry sometimes. When was the last time you got angry? I want you to ask yourself that. So I want to tell you a story about anger that I have recently. Because anger can be controlled anger, and it can be like out of control anger. And often we are afraid of anger because we think it's like out of control anger, like I'm going to rip off my shirt like the Hulk, and like I turn into this big monster that's not myself. And that can happen when we have seen really angry people and we're like, they're just out of control. And we're like, I never want to access that part of myself. But there's a really healthy, controlled anger that is powerful, that you can access, and that gives you your own sense of power. Really quick story is there's a fruit store on Bloor that I go to. It's cash only, and the fruit is like the fruit that's couldn't be sold in the grocery store. Like it might be bruised, it might need to be eaten that day. Like it's very ripe, but it's very cheap. So I go there sometimes, especially in the summer. And so I was walking by. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna see what fruit's available. I check because it's cash only. I have a $10 bill, one $10 bill. So I go in, I pick up a pineapple. It's like $3. I put it on the counter, and she takes my money and she gives me $2 back. And I said, oh, no, I gave you a $10 bill. And she's like, no, you gave me a $5. And I said, I just want to go backtrack a bit. I could have done my people-pleasing behavior, which I would have done in the past, and been like, oh yeah, no, don't worry about it, it's $5. I'm just going to pretend this didn't happen, and I'm going to come back next time with a big smile on my face, and like, oh, this is whatever. That's, it's easier to avoid conflict. But my little puppy got angry that somebody took something away from me without my permission. And I said, no, I gave you $10. Very, very firm. I'm not shouting. I'm not getting big with my energy. I'm being very focused with it. And I'm saying, no, that's mine. And she's like, well, I don't have $10 here. I don't have $10 here. I only have $5s. But I can show you the security camera. And I'm like, show me the security camera. If you're going to call my bluff, let's play this game. So she pulled out her monitor, her security thing, and she's like rewinding like to the point where I was handing the cash. Obviously it's like a blurry thing and you can't really see anything, but she keeps fiddling with it. And I'm still standing there. I'm like, these are my resources, right? Another person comes behind with her fruit, and she hands her a $20 bill. And the woman hands her the $10 back, my $10. And I said, that's my $10 bill. And she's like, couldn't say anything at that point. She gave me the correct change and it was done. So that's a way of having of accessing that anger, that sense of like right, wrong, mine, and directing it in a way that you get what you need and you're respected in this world. That is what we're trying to get to. So if you do not know how to control your anger, or like access it, channel it with power, you can access it in the shadow side, which is what a lot of people do, especially women. Unfortunately, we resort to gossiping, we resort to passive aggressive behavior, we resort to avoidance and ghosting. So I could have done all these things with that fruit stand. I could have gone to Google reviews, left them a 0 review, left a scathing thing. I could have spent days telling every single person who would listen about this horrible fruit stand experience and how they cheated me and they should never go there. Those are all shadow behaviors, right? We don't need to use our energy for those if we know how to channel our anger appropriately and use our power correctly. So I want to talk a little bit about, I really welcome people's comments or questions, so feel free to write them in. I know I'm giving a lot of information in a very quick way. So how do we know what, when we're a yes to something and we can give as a kindness that is authentic, and when we are giving out of a niceness that's like, or a kindness that is, I need validation, or a niceness that is true and authentic? There's a tool for that, and it's just checking in with your 3 centers: the head, the heart, and the gut. So we want all of these to be yes. If one of them is a no or one of them is a maybe, it's a no. So let's ask ourselves the question. Somebody's asking you to help them move, right? I'm going to ask my head first. Do I have resources? Do I have strength for this? Do I have time for this? Does it logically make sense in terms of like, does this person, somebody in my life that I would want to help move? Do I have physical strength to help them move? That's all logic head. If it's a yes, 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 good. Green light. Then I go to my heart, and that goes back to the nice or the kind. Am I being actually wanting to help them move because I'm a full heart for this and I want it to be helpful? I have no expectation of anything in return. Then it's a yes. In my gut. So there's a somatic exercise that I've taught a few people in this group of how to read a yes and a no in your body. It's a bit of a longer exercise, so I'm not going to get into it today, but you can send me a message and I can send you a recording of that. Or, if you feel like taking the community course in November, we're going to go more in depth into how do you read a yes or no in your body. And you'll get a very clear yes, 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 no, yes. I'm going to do it, right? And that's when we build this tool, we do not have things like resentment show up because we know it's a full yes. So I'm giving it from a pure heart, and there's no room for resentment after that. So let's go through really quickly. What kind of questions can you ask yourself to get that yes? When I go through my centers, and then there's also a few questions like, am I doing this because I really want to? Do I feel obligated? Again, that exchange, that validation, that exchange. Do I feel obligated? You want to have a no. Am I doing this for validation? Do I have an expectation? And if I do have an expectation, does the other person know about that? It goes back to setting your boundaries. I'm going to help you move, but my expectation is that we're done by 8 o'clock. Or my expectation is that you provide dinner, right? What are your expectations? Just be honest with them, because then it gives the other person the opportunity to meet your needs. And if they can't, then again, there's no room for resentment. So now I want to talk a little bit about fear. And fear is what comes up for us when we're unable to say no, or we're unable to set our boundary, or we're unable to express anger. Fundamentally, it's fear. Again, going back to that child who didn't feel safe expressing emotions because they were afraid to. It wasn't safe in that home to express the full range of their emotions, right? So what is the root of people-pleasing behavior for you? Would you identify it as fear or a lack of safety? That's an important thing too. Mostly it's fear. I'm asking this question because you might be different. Everyone is different. When we identify and know the root, then we can go deeper into the solution. What would happen if you upset somebody? What would happen if I said, no, I'm not going to help you move? Right? That's the next question you go into to deal with fear. Fear is just, you've heard this before, fear is basically an illusion. It's like projections of our mind of what if, or what's the worst case scenario. So we want to go into that worst case scenario and be like, what would happen if I said, no, I'm not going to help them move? Maybe they don't want to be my friend anymore. Do I want a friend who is so light about our connection that this would break it? Right? Go through every possible scenario. And what could I do if that actually happened? What if they didn't want to be my friend anymore? Would I still be okay? Yeah, I'd still be okay. Right? It's probably not going to happen that they would not be my friend anymore, but I need to go through all those scenarios and get to the source of safety that I would still be okay if they were not my friend anymore. That is how you deal with the fear of taking action, of not being a people pleaser. And there's just a series of inquiry we can go through together. In the program I'm running on the Sunday, we do community night where we run through these exercises and actually do real-time talking through things and coming to the tools and the solution. So it's not these abstract concepts, it's like real world, how do you solve your own life right now? So how do you say no in a way that is loving and gentle? I'm all about like being authentic. I'm a kind person and I always want to be loving and gentle. But a lot of us have a hard time saying no because we've been conditioned to not say no. An example is we grew up in families where, especially cultures like mine, people show love through food and they also show a sense of control through food. So they will continually feed you and you'll say, no, I'm full. I can't do this anymore. They'll be like, oh no, just try this little thing. Just eat, keep eating. Have you guys experienced this before? It's happened a lot to me in my life, actually. I'm curious if it happens in everyone's family. But that trained me that my no is not sacred. That my no would not be honored. That my no was meaningless. It's a small thing, but a small thing of many things that built into the conditioning. So I'm saying this now because a lot of us are the age of the people that did this to us. So be conscious of your behavior. If somebody's saying no, if a kid is saying no, can you honor that no? I think you can. So another thing is saying like, that's very kind of you. I'm not interested right now. That's a soft no. Right now. The qualifier, that's an easy way to start titrating into being able to say no to bigger things. I started using this right now as well. Like, that sounds like a great opportunity, but I'm not available for that right now. Or I'm not interested right now. Try that right now phrase. So the other thing is practicing no in the real world. Have you guys seen those canvassers on the street? In Toronto, they're everywhere, on every corner, like Greenpeace, because I'm a girl, like they are always asking for money on the street. And in the past, I would have actually crossed the street to avoid saying no to them. Like I would jaywalk to get away from these people asking me for something because I could not be comfortable saying no to them. So the practice is to say, it's like these people they've been said no to hundreds of times already, right? Just be one of those other people. Just be like, no, thank you. Or I appreciate what you're doing for the world, but it's a no from you right now. Do you see how that felt for you when I said it's a no from you right now? Like it felt soft, right? Instead of just being like, no, I don't want to, not interested. That's a harshness to it. So yeah, I'd love to talk more about this, but I'm going to move on to the next topic. Let's talk about intimacy for a second, because this comes up a lot as well before we move on. So how do you say no in a sexual way when you're in a relationship with somebody and they want to do something you don't want to do, or they want to go further than you want to go? You can qualify it. And so it can be hard to be like, no, I don't want to do this, or I'm uncomfortable. It's like a contraction. You want to be like, I really enjoy spending time with you. I'm really enjoying our connection, our interaction, but I'm not ready to go there right now. Again, that right now qualifier. You can see how I said that. It didn't sound like it was a full, like, I'm ending this whole thing and this is a big deal. It just, and right now. Really practice that. So the homework is right now, qualifier, and also saying no to people that are easy to say no to, like people who are asking you for stuff on the street. So all this comes down to reprogramming at the core level, which is sense of safety. And that's done through like nervous system tools, nervous system regulation, and reprogramming for I am safe. I spent a whole year with my mantra being I am safe. I even changed my internet passwords to I am safe with like numbers after it. That's how much I was like reprogramming my affirmation in my mind. I am safe. I am safe. I would go to my bank. I am safe. Typing in the password. My password is different now, obviously, but like that's what I did in the past. That's a way of you reinforcing in your mind, because you spent decades subconsciously saying you're not safe in this world, right? And so you need to be conscious in your behaviors to create a new groove in your brain. I'm safe. I'm safe. I'm safe. Think of strategies you can have around that. Putting a post-it on your fridge. I'm safe. Or on the mirror when you brush your teeth. I'm safe. You're getting used to your body being I'm safe. So what we resist persists, especially things like fear. And we're talking again about being afraid to say no, being afraid to express our boundaries, being afraid to express our need. So when you understand the root of your fear, you understand it's not really scary. There's so many tools around this. There's one I really love. There's a book called Radical Acceptance by Tara Brach. She's a Buddhist meditation teacher. And she talks about a technique where you invite fear to tea. And that's because, again, fear is just this vibrating pattern, and it seems so abstract and nebulous. It's like this generalized feeling of like anxiety and like, I don't know what it is. I just feel like I'm frozen in this fear state. I can't say no to this person. I can't take a step forward in this relationship. So invite your fear to tea is the basic concept. And that comes from like the Buddha. There's a story about the Buddha where there was a demonic demon, and he was expressing like all these emotions towards the Buddha, like anger, lust, fear, greed. And the Buddha just invited him to tea. He didn't have a contraction or like, no, I'm not going to invite you into my home. It's like, come into my home and let's talk about it. And that's kind of the invitation with this concept, is like your adult self is different than the child version of you that was feeling that fear. And you're letting that child version of you run the show if you don't deal with it as an adult now. So having tea with it just means like, as an adult, your version of you being like, literally like going into the fear. What's the worst that could happen? Can I deal with the worst outcome? Right? Let your adult self run your body, your show, and your life right now. You have to deal with things head on and like go deep into these emotions, this fear. If you need any help, please DM me, and it's all free. The consultation, I'm doing this as a service. Like, I want to be helpful to you. So let's start creating and holding boundaries. We talked a lot about what a boundary is yesterday. I hope you guys watched that. Boundaries, like the walls around your home that tell people what is yours and what is not yours, and what is theirs and what is not theirs. So boundaries are the container in which you hold everything that makes you feel like you. But how do we know what that even is if we have no sense of relationship to ourselves or who we are, what we want, right? So that's what I keep talking about, coming back to the sense of safety, come back to the sense of self, the sense of identity, the authenticity, because then we know what's ours and what isn't ours. We also want to understand what our triggers are around this. So again, fear is the trigger. What is the fear? I'm inviting my fear to tea and having that conversation. So the third thing we talked about is deciding what kind of people you want in your life. We talked about that at the beginning. Safety with self and then safety with others. Who are the people in your life? Do they all feel safe to you, or do you need to people please and have a response that makes them feel like they want you in their life? You have value because of what you do for them in your life, right? And the last thing we're going to talk about today is boundaries with ourselves. This is like a huge topic in itself. Let me know if you're interested in going into more of it. But a lot of times we don't have boundaries with others. We don't have boundaries with ourselves, which means like things as simple as bedtime. I can't maintain my bedtime at 10 p.m. because I constantly break my boundaries. If I don't have boundaries with myself, how can I expect other people to honor my boundaries, right? So some of the work that we will do is like going over like, what are the boundaries that you do have with yourself? Are they all healthy? What are the tools you have around maintaining them? How do you honor yourself with your boundaries? And that is the kind of the end of what I want to talk about today. Tomorrow we're going to go, their last day, we're going to go a little bit deeper even still. If you want to keep doing this work and having these conversations, please join me next month in November for the group community program. It's Tuesdays and Sundays in the evening, and we're going to be talking about even more of this in depth every week, and we're going to be practicing things together, like practicing saying no. I want you to tell me a scenario you're going through in your life right now where you're having trouble saying no, and we're going to practice saying no in your body. What does that feel like? Where are you meeting the resistance? And let's remove that. There's a lot of tools that we have to remove that. We're going to talk about relationships that we're having and how do we have better boundaries with those people. So if you're interested, send me a DM or check the link that I'll post in the comments. And thank you for joining me today, everyone. Have a great day.